Position in that country. Let's listen in to what he has had to say about the events of the past few days.
The charge sheet has 3 counts. One is unlawful possession of firearms contrary to Section 3 of the Firearms Act. And it is alleged that he was found in illegal possession of a firearm, which is an SMG serial number 56 blah blah weapon, which is a monopoly of the UPDF. Then he was also said to have been found with another firearm, an SMG serial number UE blah blah, equipment being monopoly of the Defense Forces. Then he was also said to be in unlawful possession of ammunitions, and that he was in possession of 35 live ammunitions of a caliber of 7.26 blah blah blah, equipment ordinarily being a monopoly of the Defense Forces. There is no treason. Okay? We thought that since they had been arrested under similar circumstances, they would be charged with similar offenses. But whereas the other group was charged with the treason, for him it is unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition. Okay? And that's why he was, brought here. As my senior colleague has said, when somebody is unwell, he cannot take plea. And it's a standard legal practice, okay? Because for you to take plea, you should be able to understand the contents or particulars of the charges. There is no doubt that Honorable Bobi Wine was not in control of his mental faculty because of the excessive torture that he faced. We were surprised that even when he was in solitary confinement, he was still handcuffed. And we were raising it with our colleagues. How do you handcuff a person who is already in solitary confinement in some secluded house?
In his condition.
In his condition, okay? So it's really unfortunate. Now, the responsibility, the good thing is that the chairman of the General Court Martial has given us assurance that we will have unfettered and unconditional access to him in Machi.
All right, the lawyer to Bobi Wine. Very quickly, Dismas, Museveni has been accused of ruling with an iron fist. Do you think any of these events suggest that anything has changed? And also, Bobi Wine, is he threatening to become the kingmaker in Uganda and the de facto opposition leader at the expense of Kizza Besigye?
Well, again, 3 issues that you've raised with that question. Number one, we understand Bobi Wine is only 35 years old, but he's creating a situation in Uganda serving the interest of the larger public. And I would be embarrassed to compare Bobi with our MPs in our National Assembly today and Senate, who are his age mates. They're busy taking selfies with suspects during hearings instead of addressing the core issues. 2, Kenya has got an insurable interest in what happens in Uganda. Whatever affects Bobi Wine affects Kenyans because it's our second biggest trading partner. And as Kenyans, we should be concerned that President Museveni is running the nation in a manner which is unacceptable. And one would have expected that our High Commissioner in Kampala would have actually issued a statement. The way I normally see the US Ambassador or the British High Commissioner issuing a statement in Nairobi, I'm hoping that our High Commissioner in Kampala is going to issue a statement to protest the way they normally say in the strongest terms possible in what is happening in Kampala. And number 3, and probably most important, it's a shame that we have a body by the name Africa Union, because these are the issues Africa Union is supposed to be addressing. Not long ago, we had a similar altercation in Burundi, and the Africa Union was mum. IGAD was mum. They were very quiet because the footage coming out of Uganda, the way Bobi Wine is being treated, that he's received a beating that is almost unconscious, that even when he's before a court, he actually doesn't understand that he's in a court. He's beaten, he's swollen, and he's been accused of some charges, and according to his lawyers, which appear to be very frivolous, that you are found with one weapon, and then you are told you're plotting to overthrow the government. Really, that's not possible. And in my view, as Kenyans, we should rise up, give Ugandans all the necessary support they need, because if we don't take care of what is happening at Uganda, then we are going to regret sooner than later.
Mark?
I am sad. It would have been better if Bobi Wine had received the treatment he had been received, if indeed he was guilty of treason. And let's take Kenya as an example. When Raila Odinga swore himself in as the President of the People's Republic of Kenya, it was a treasonable act. It was an act that would have been gotten him meted with the harshest treatment by the Republic of Kenya. But look at the wisdom of our president and his leadership in deciding that the path of peace was what was best for the nation. That being said, you look at Uganda, one cannot help but conclude that Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is not only a dictator, but he is running a police state. And after running a police state, we must conclude also that he is running scared of one Bobi Wine, and therefore we must congratulate Bobi Wine for doing what many parliamentarians and leaders in Kenya cannot do, which is stand up for the truth, not at the threat of a gun, but a threat of losing money. Many of politicians who are running around following certain people, it's because of money. That's why our politicians are driven. They will rubbish reports because of money. They will campaign for so and so because of money. But we have a 35-year-old young man who stood up against a dictator, against the bullet, against the gun, to stand for what is right for his country. Where is that in this country? For me, I stand and salute Bobi Wine for paying the ultimate price for the freedom of the people of Uganda. He is paying the ultimate price for those people, and one day that blood that he spilled, crying tears and being fought for that nation, it will set them free. But at the same time, I must call to shame the leaders of the Republic of Kenya, who for their own greed and for their own benefit have refused to stand up against impunity, against corruption, and against mediocrity. They've refused to stand up for Wanjiko, and they're sitting down with their fat pockets and fat bellies, paying no price for the future of this country. They're enjoying their, what do you call it, single malt whiskey at the price of 3.6 trillion or 4.6 trillion of debt of this republic. They're enjoying single malt whiskey at the price of farmers who've not been paid, at the price of Wanjiko who can't do business, at the price of 700 billion shillings lost every year to corruption. Right. Shame on our leaders. Congratulations, Bobi Wine. We stand with you in solidarity.
Let's have the final thoughts. Kipchumba, how does Kenya stand up with Bobi Wine? And more importantly, can Kenyan lawmakers learn anything from that?
Ben, a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Yes. That is the first point we need to make. And then one, to Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, good juice becomes bad juice when it is overtime. And where I come from in the North Rift, we say you should exit the stage when the song is at its highest point. I think it is high time Museveni realized that his overstay in power is becoming a disadvantage to the Ugandan people and to us as a region. And that is why I ask ourselves, under EAC, before we even go to African Union, we need to put sanctions to Museveni's government that we cannot trade with people who do not respect human rights. Torture is a crime against international law, on which international law has placed what we call jus cogens on it. It is a norm. It has normalized it that you cannot do it against anybody, whether they are within the jurisdiction of the conventions on human rights or not. That is what ought to be brought to the attention of Museveni. Secondly, Museveni should be told that we have a whole book of dictators and despots who fell on their own gun. Haile Mariamu Mengistu fell, Agostino Pinochet. Even in his own country, there is a good example of a man who died and he was buried later like a dog. Idi Amin Dada. The history is laced with a lot of examples. So he should read through and realize that Uganda is not one of his personal items. And two, democracy should not be a preserve of people in this country or anywhere. As Kenyans, and as somebody said, our high commissioner there, or whoever represents our country there, should state in equal terms that as a country, we will not sit here and watch and see human rights being derogated. My final point is this: under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, you cannot court-martial a civilian in a military court. If you are a civilian, you have a right to be tried in of competent jurisdiction, which is not a military camp or anything.
Right.
This does an effect, because when you are court-martialed, your right to defend yourself under the ICCPR are derogated.
Right.
So I think those rights, Bobi Wine remains innocent until proven guilty, because Uganda is a signatory of ICCPR.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Let me just take a look at some of your comments as we wind up. Desmond Karaoke says on Twitter, I support calls to dissolve the National Assembly. This is a very dangerous house. Uhuru Kenyatta should crack the whip. Paul Mungai says, people did not elect Sonko and Waitito, but rather ousted Kidero and Kabogo. That's the grim reality. Mzee Wesley says, praises Dismas. Says, how does Dismas manage being smartly intelligent and calm? It makes the show fearlessly super. Thank you, Wesley, for watching. It's Brian says, Kenyan leaders are fighting corruption in words while they are practicing it in action. And finally, one here from Boniface Kinaro says, Sonko's phone call to Waitito goes against the rule of law, transparency, and integrity in public service. Keep that conversation on going on Twitter. Our hashtag on Twitter is KTN Sunday Edition. You can tweet me at Ben_Kitili. You can tweet the gentlemen here as well. Give them your feedback on the show and the issues we did discuss. Thank you, gentlemen. Kipchumba Karori, political strategist and lawyer, political analyst and communication expert, Mark Bichachi, political risk analyst, Dismas Moko. Let's do this again next Sunday, same time, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Sunday edition comes to you that time as we join us as we discuss and dissect the biggest political and governance issues in the Republic. I am Ben Kitili. Bye for now. Don't go too far. Zinzi Kibiku is coming up shortly with Weekend at 1.